Hi, my name is Alessandro Angelosi and that's a video tutorial coming from cgcookie.com for Max Cookie. Today we'll work on a Christmas related tutorial. I know that we are full in summer, but I like to see some way to use iron fure to create some more complex mesh, trying to avoid a lot of work done using poly modeling. And the result we are trying to realize is something like that. You see a really simple scene with not so much work on lighting and on modeling, but something nice that can be used to understand how to create complex mesh in this way. So let's start preparing the scene. So let's start creating the scene, and first of all I like to check the unit setup. So we are inside 3ds Max 2014, so we can use the X key and set Ambrite, for example, unit, and we have unit setup, and we are working in centimeters, so that's okay. And let's imagine that we have a sphere, and this sphere have a radius of, let's say, maybe 4 centimeters, or let's say, yes, 4 centimeters. So that's the basic scale for our Christmas ball, and I like to see some technique to have a simple mesh able to create some Christmas stuff just with air and fure. So our main issue is to create a mesh, and we can use, for example, a box. Let's rotate this one by 90 degrees, so we'll use the angle snap. You can activate it also using the A key. This one can be a little bit more little at the beginning, and then we can use the convert to editable poly, and now we can start working on the polygons. Sorry. So we can start extruding some polygons. I will do something really simple. It will be not as a complex mesh. So you see I'm making some extrusion, and then we can extrude, just a little bit more. Okay. So that's the basic mesh. Then I like to start extruding some polygons. Let's say, for example, there. Let's see if we have something more selected. And let's say that we go to extrude also this one. Okay, let's go to have the extrusion, and let's say by polygon we can use directly the bevel. So we'll start to have just a little bit of beveling, then we add a little bit more, and again we can have less, and beveling can be let's say maybe 25. Let's go at 20. Let's try with 16. Okay, let's say yes and close. Sorry. Okay, and close. Now we can make some manipulation for the other stuff. So for example, we can scale there and we can start manipulating all the stuff. So we can move this area just to have this one a little bit more little, and it is not so precise because we don't need a precise modeling, but it is simple to make something that can works. So you see, I'm just manipulating by hand the various stuff we have there. Let's do the same with some more polygons. And let's do the same also there. Okay, and let's do the same with other stuff there. We'll use the various tools to cover part of the mesh, so it is not a problem. We have there a polygon. Okay, we can fix it later. Let's zoom there so we see what's happening, and that's just a polygon problem with some vertices. We have also to move there. Okay, so then let's work on this area. Something really fast. Okay, let's imagine that this mesh is done. Maybe we can just pick all the polygons, and you see we give a different shape. Okay, something really simple. Let's call it CRS wood, and then over this one we can use the turbo smooth, and you see that we are starting to have the right mesh. We can use more polygons, and to be sure that we have there the right shape, we can go for the weight, and we can change the weighting there. Let's go for 50, and that's all. Okay, so we have this shape, and it is really simple. And now there is nothing that can be similar to something Christmas related if we have no needles over it. So let's imagine that this one has a wood material and we can assign it, but actually it is just a brown color. Then we need something over the mesh, and to do something like that we can use the air and fuel. You know that it is used to create hairs, but it can be really powerful to create also meshes like this one. So what we can do is to change the parameters there, and to change the parameters we can decide how many hair count we'll have. So we can, for example, lower it and we can see it in the viewport. Then we can go inside the display and say that we see all the hairs, and the maximum is 100,000, so we are able to see the real amount. Let's see more. Okay, it is starting to be better, and let's simplify the mesh. You see that we can have less or more polygons. If we go for low, the amount of polygons for the mesh we are creating will be better, and that's nice because it can be really slow. And then we have the density, the scale, and you see we can control, for example, the length, but you know that the Christmas stuff is not so low for the scaling. And let's say that the tip is 0, but I made a mistake because we are working on the tip. So let's go back to the previous parameter. Okay, and the tip is 0, and there it is right. We can have maybe just 30, sorry, I mean there, maybe 10. Okay, and there for the scaling you see that we can have more random scale. This one is, everything is scaled in the same way. We can have a little bit of randomness. And then if we go there, you know that we can have, for example, something like a dark brown, and the tip color can be green. And in this way you see that we have a nice looking mesh. Maybe we need a little bit more count, so let's go for 4,000, and maybe it is better. So the first thing is to save the scene. Okay, so as you see, it is done. We have the basic modeling, and we can have two different ways to create the stuff. The first one is to create this one in rendering just using the air and fuel. The second one is to convert in meshes to have a complete possibility to control the quality and how it works and looks. So now we can go there inside the main tools parameters, and you see that we have render the air mesh conversion. So in this way we can convert the actual hair to mesh. Let's create, and you see that we have a mesh actually. So what we can do is to go inside the selection, select the object 01, go in the isolation mode, and see what we created. You see that it is not bad, and if we go to see the amount of polygon, we have not so much polygons, but we have a lot of detail. So in this case we can do two things. First of all, select the basic objects, and we don't need more the air and fuel, so we can set to off. And if you go inside the environment, and you can go from the rendering menu, or you can use the X key. Let's go inside environment, and inside the effects we have the air and fuel. We can delete because we don't need it. And then we have this object, and this object actually is named object. We can call it CHRS needles. Okay, let's create a basic material like green, or let's call it needles. We can assign it, and the color will be green. So that's our actual mesh. If we go to render something like that, you see that it seems something related to Christmas, because we have a nice control over the quality. And let's say that we have there the show save frame. Let's set the resolution to 900 and 400. Let's create a camera. So create camera from view, or you can use the Ctrl+C shortcut. And then if we go to render, we are using the full scan line. We obtain, let's go to the normal width and frame buffer, and you see that the quality is not bad, and it is nice to have something like that, because we done something really complex with really not so much work. So now if we like to control more chaos over the meshes, we can do something simple. We can use a tessellate. Now it can start to be slower because we are tessellating a really complex mesh. So if you prefer to be to work in a faster way, we can have, for example, first of all, the tension set to 0. Let's wait for the updating. Okay, and we can try to operate on code to see if it works better, but we have some errors, so it is better to work on triangle. Let's see the result. The result seems similar, so we can add a noise, and let's start with an higher amount for all axes, and let's start to have a lower scaling. So you see that we are starting to have some deformation. Let's go with a lower scaling. Okay, it is obviously too much, so we can go for 1, 1, and 1, and maybe it is still too much. But I like to see how it works, first of all, with a bigger scale. So let's try with 2, and with a more complex mesh, let's try with 2 for the tessellation. We should have more curvy result, and then we can manage the noise value. Let's wait for the updating. Okay, it is done. Obviously it took a little bit of time. As you see, the amount is of noise is really too much, so we can first of all go to have a bigger scale, and then we can try with 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5. So you see we have just a little bit of chaos to have no straight needles. So you know, this mesh now starts to be a little bit heavy on inside the viewport. So we can do something like select this one, right mouse button, and say off in viewport. So you see the mesh is simpler and it is faster, and you see that this one gives us an idea about what we are doing. And also the file will be more little over DHT because we are saving just some polygons and not the EV version. Let's go back to the camera. That's our result. Obviously now the tessellation will be computed at rendering time, so it will take a little bit of time to be calculated, but it is not a problem. We can render this one, and to do something like that we can let's use a skylight map. You see that it will take a little bit of time to create the illumination for something like that, and that's a reason why it is better to start working in the other way, using the shaded. Now I like to start rendering some stuff with it, and to do something like that we need for sure the possibility to render using semi-quality settings. To do something like that we can use directly an HDR map, so let's call it HDR, and we can use let's use mental ray. So we go to use a bitmap, and we can use a texture. We used it on a previous tutorial. Let's go to use this one. So it's an interior, so it will be perfect. Environmental map and spherical map. Now we can copy it there as an instance. We can set mental ray as rendering engine. We can go in the illumination there, and you see that if you have an older version of 3ds Max, you will be able just to use the skylight illumination from Final Gather, but in this case we have the possibility to use this feature, so the image-based lighting, and we talked about it in the previous tutorial, so we use it because the quality is higher. Let's go to have some bounce nits. Let's try with 2, and let's go with a low quality rendering, and let's see the actual rendering quality. So as you see, the result is not bad. I think that we have too much noise, so we can go inside the noise there, and let's go for 0.25, 0.25 and 0.25 on the third axis too. Let's start playing a little bit more, and for the moment, for the testing, we can set to off the tessellate to be faster. So that's the wood as we said before, and we can use an arc in the same material. We go for a brown color, and let's use something more like that for the reflectivity. Let's say that the reflectivity is 0.25, but we'll have obviously a higher amount of glossiness, and we'll use some bumping too. Let's go for the iron red for the reflection, so we have less reflectivity, and we can use a noise. To see just the rendering of this piece to be faster, we can go in isolation and render again. Okay, so you see that actually is nothing special, and we can go for fractal, and let's try with a lower, and let's set also the rendering to use a more little baguette rendering. So let's try with a lower scale, 0.5, and let's say that we have more bumping. Let's render. Okay, we are starting to have something over the surface. We can apply maybe also a noise over the color there. So let's use noise. And let's go to have a lower scale. Let's try with 0.7. And we'll have something more clear. And maybe we can copy a second color, this one. So right mouse button, copy, and then paste over there. This one can be more clear. Let's render just one area. Okay, just to have some variation. Nice. Back there we can save, exit from the isolation, and we can play a little bit with the needles. We can use the arc and the sign, and we'll use a green color with less saturation, a little bit darker. And let's try to have a little bit of reflectivity, but we'll use a little bit of green coloring for it. And let's see what happened. We render again just one area. I think we can have higher reflectivity, and I like to have the map as background too, so let's do something like that. Let's go to environment, and let's use the same map as instance there. Then let's select this one, and let's say that we have a little bit more lighting. Let's see again how it looks. So you see we have the same mapping we are using in the background as the lighting. Okay, it is going better. I like to have more reflectivity over there, so let's try to have 0.5 there and 0.6 for the reflectivity, and then we go for higher and render again. Okay, as you see, it is going better than before. Now let's try to see what happens when we are using the depth of field to give more realism, but we can add also higher reflectivity, and we can have also some color variation. So let's go there, and let's use, for example, a granite ramp. And we can have there dark brown, and there dark gray, green. This one can be deleted, and this one will be green. I like to have maybe some different variation of color. So instead of use the gradient, we can use directly a noise. Let's discard, and let's use, for example, 4 as scaling. and we'll have maybe something like that, and on the other side we'll have something like that. Let's see again. Okay, you see that there now we have some color variation, and we have also the right specularity we like to have. Let's work on the depth of field. So we go to save and we go to render with a lower resolution. Let's lock and let's go for 500. Then let's select the camera, and we need the depth of field. We can also, preview in viewport, but we have to decide which is the setting we are trying to use. And this time you see that it's too much, so we have to go out of there, and we can see from the top which is the target distance, and we can have, for example, this one, and let's go for a preview. And you see that now we have a lot of depth of field there, so we can try to have a different setting, and I can say let's try, for example, with 5, and it seems better. So let's go in the rendering and let's try with this setting. Okay, you see that we have a nice amount of depth of field. Maybe we have just to change the colors there, so I have to admit that maybe a darker color there and a darker color there will be better. So let's see. Okay, coloring is going better, and you see that the quality of the depth of field is not bad. I like to work a little bit with the map there, so we make a copy. And we'll try to have a different piece of the map. Let's try to have this part and this part, and apply. Let's go in the background. And we copy this map as an instance, and maybe we can also have a little bit of color correction, so keep old as old map, and we have this there. Let's see what we have inside the viewport, and to see something like that I like to speed up the rendering, and to do this we go to have the isolate on this part of the mesh, so we start to see the scene behind it. Okay, let's go in the map there, and let's go to have a really the focused map. Okay, and we'll go to have also a different coloring. So let's go for a little bit more saturation and a little bit more contrast and less brightness to give more contrast to the image. Okay, back with all objects, save, and we should have something more interesting. So you see that the result now is really better than before. So just to have an image that can be used, we can finalize using a Christmas ball, or maybe two. And to do something like that, we can select the sphere. Let's call it GRS CRS bold red, and let's move it in front, maybe there. We can make it a little bit bigger, and then we can work more on it. Let's say that we have 64. Okay, let's go in an orthographic view, and from the top let's use an edit poly, and I like to select some polygons. Let's remove with the Alt key the lower side, or we can also do something different. We can use this selection to make a little bit of modeling. So we can, for example, doing an extrude, maybe something bigger later, so plus, and move it there, and say yes, and close. Then from this point of view we can zoom this area, and let's create something done with metal, and we can use directly something really simple as a line. So we do something like that. We can zoom to this object, we pick these polygons, these vertices, and we can have the fillet, and then the spline can be maybe we can do it later, it's not a problem. So let's go to use the lathe minimum, and let's use 40, and then affect pivot to the center, and we can center this mesh over this axis, and let's zoom to it. We go a little bit over, well, core, and you see that we have the capping there, and we can, for example, use just this one as closed, or we can, for example, then use an editable poly, and then we can select using the ignore backfacing, but I think we have a problem with the face, so let's go back and let's use the flip normal and use an edit poly over it. Use the ignore backfacing. Okay, and now it's right. Let's remove, and now if we use the cap, let's see if we can have a nice capping there, and we have the possibility to triangulate as you see, but we can use just then an edit poly. We select this one, and we can, for example, use a tessellate with no tension. I know that we have the same result as before, but maybe we can just using no problem with this one, because actually we have now the so important modeling with this part, and we can imagine that we have a torus, let's center there with all axes, and then we change the parameter. And we can move it there, and we can just use something like that because our purpose is not the modeling. Let's say 48 and 24, and that's part as a chrome material. We can create an arc design, and we go for a black color, and we'll have maximum reflectivity, and then we have the error rate set to 16. We use the error rate, and we'll have a little bit of anisotropy, and we'll have also a little bit of glossiness. Okay, then let's say red ball, and this one is an arc and design. Obviously the coloring is red, the reflection is really high. Let's go with 17 for the error rare, and the reflection will be with the error rare, and then we'll go to have a little bit of glossiness. Let's see a fast render. So the metal quality is nice, and the quality there for the reflection, I don't like it so much, so let's go for a lower IRR and maybe a dark red there, and let's say 0.7 for the reflection. Back to a preview. Okay, now it is going a little bit better. Okay, let's close this one, pick both objects, and we can group using the, and let's call it red ball. We can have for example a copy there, and this one can be rotated, and one other can stay there, and the rotation can be different. That is not a problem. Then we can pick this one, or maybe directly this one, make a copy using the shift key. Then we can open the group, so we can go also inside the menu, open, pick this one, and create a material, a similar material, but this time we work on the yellow sign. Let's go to create something like a gold color, and let's see, let's close the group again, and let's make with the local okay, and let's go in the rendering and let's render this part, but this one too can be rotated. And let's preview. Okay, something simple but that can work. Let's pick this one. We can make some copies. We can make some copies, for example there, copy, and let's rotate, and this one can be more little, and for example we can have another one with a different rotation, and edit group, open, and this one can be let's make a copy and let's call it blue, assign, and we go for a blue coloring, really nice, with a little bit of blue also for the reflection. Okay, edit group, close, and then we can make some copies of this one. There too, we can align to this one, and then we can move it, and we can have also a copy for this one. This one can be more little and can stay maybe there with a different rotation. Okay, save, and obviously the image is really simple. You see the result is not bad, and you have to remember that we done it really with no efforts, as a really simple project, and we if you have time you can work on the shaders and create something really realistic. Before we end, you have to remember that this one must be set to off in viewport, but it's on for the rendering, and the scene is ready to be rendered. So I think that actually that's all. You can use this technique to create a lot of projects. So for the moment that's all, and I hope to see you back on Max Cookie to check for new tutorial coming from cgcookie.com. Bye.